and welcome to the national news broadcast on Channel I. We are ready to bring you the top stories from home and around the world. I'm Natalia Viravadan.
Good evening, I'm Clifford Richards. First of all, we take a look at the headlines.
The highest number of COVID-19 positive cases detected in the country within 24 hours reported today. Solutions from the President for issues in the Matale area. Steps to be taken to eradicate the underworld and narcotics crisis. UNP leader Ranil Wickremesinghe states that it is only the United National Party that has the capacity to build a country with an economic vision. Indictment served on former parliamentarian Patali Champika Ranawaka in connection with the Rajagiriya motor accident. Uttar Pradesh and several provinces of India face another stage of lockdown amidst the COVID-19 pandemic.
And on the top story for tonight, 293 COVID-19 positive cases were reported in the country today, out of which 283 were detected from the Kandakad Rehabilitation Center. In addition, 9 COVID-19 positive cases were detected from amongst returnees from India, while one was a returnee from Pakistan. The highest number of COVID-19 positive cases detected in the country within 24 hours was reported today. Yesterday, 56 COVID-19 positive cases were reported from the Kandakad Rehabilitation Center. Thereby, the total number of COVID-19 contracted persons detected from the Kandakadu cluster has risen to 339. Director General of Health Services Consultant Dr. Anil Jasinghe states that the family members of the counsellor attached to the rehabilitation centre have also been sent to quarantine. The counsellor is a resident of the Maravilla area and tested positive for the virus yesterday. In addition, 37 individuals of 9 residences which she had visited have also been instructed to undergo self-quarantine. 2 shops in the area have also been closed down. Meanwhile, another 66 staff members of the rehabilitation centre were subjected to PCR testing this morning. Meanwhile, the number of fully recovered COVID-19 patients in the country stands at 1,980 as of today. This is a percentage of 80.91. The number of patients undergoing further hospitalized treatment stands at 456, and this accounts for 18.63%. The Sri Lanka Navy states that 895 personnel of the Navy cluster have fully recovered. This is a percentage of 98.78. The number of Navy personnel undergoing further hospitalized treatment stands at 11, and this accounts for 1.21%. Army Commander Shavendra Silva, the head of the coronavirus prevention operations, today rejected the false reports that several areas were subjected to a lockdown. Addressing the media, he urged the people not to be misled by the false news and only rely on the news dismantled by the government. Commander of the Sri Lanka Army, Lieutenant General Shavendra Silva said all necessary measures have been taken to prevent the spread of COVID-19 within communities. He said a quarantine facility operated by the Sri Lanka Army in Kandakadu was converted into a COVID-19 treatment hospital, and the 253 COVID-19 patients from the treatment and rehabilitation center are treated at the converted hospital. The Army Commander said there are 2 separate treatment and rehabilitation centers, namely Senapura and Kandakadu, operating under the Ministry of Justice in the Polonnaruwa district. There are 1,150 inmates and staff at both these treatment and rehabilitation centers, and as this afternoon, PCR tests results of around 375 people were received, said the Army Commander. The Army Commander went on to note contact tracing is underway and contacts of the COVID-19 cases have already been placed in quarantine by the security forces. The Army Commander also said that all those at the Kandakadu Treatment and Rehabilitation Center currently on leave had been recalled.
And in other news, another stage of the series of rallies attended by President Gotabaya Rajapaksa to promote the election campaigns of candidates contesting under the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna took place throughout today. Today's rallies were centered in the Matale district. Today's first rally was held at the Galewala Children's Park to support the campaign of Sri Lanka Pudujana Peramuna candidate Minister Janaka Bandar Tendako. The president was warmly welcomed by the residents of the area. The farming community of the area requested the president to guarantee a fixed price for the onion harvest expected to be supplied to the market. President Gotabaya Rajapaksa discussed with the farmers regarding focusing on value-added processes to sell their pepper harvest to the market at a high price.
අපි මොනවාක්වත් පිටවට ඉන්නේ පුරක්කන් ඒ හැම එකක්ම ගෙන්නවනේ දැන් අපි ඔක්කොම නවත්තලා තියෙනවා ඉතින් වගා කරන්නේ දැන් කියන හම්බ වෙනවා අපි ගම්මිනිස්සු කියන එක නවත්තවා හැබැයි අපි අර එක වේලලා කරලා එහෙම දෙනවා නම් අපිට වැඩි මිලක් ගන්න පුළුවන්
Another rally was organized in the premises of the Dambulla Weekly Fair to support the campaign of Sri Lanka Pudujana Peramuna candidate Pramitha Bandar Tendako. At the rally, the president expressed his gratitude to the farming community on their contribution to agriculture. The president was also briefed on the functions of the Rangiri Jeeva Harita organic fertilizer production unit operated by the Dambulla Urban Council. The unit supplies 3 tons of organic fertilizer per day to the Mathale and Dambulla areas. The urban councillors pointed out to the president that the differences of opinion between the Urban Development Authority, the Department of Archaeology and the Department of Wildlife are a major obstacle in resolving land disputes in the Sigiri area. Farming community requested the president to expeditiously complete and that's the cold storage facility that is under construction, and the president instructed the relevant officials to take speedy steps in this regard. The president expressed his gratitude with regard to the construction of a ward complex for the control of COVID-19 at a cost of 9 million rupees funded by the voluntary organizations with the intervention of Minister Janaka Bandar Tendako. Thereafter, the president attended a rally organized in the Naula area to support the campaign of Sri Lanka Pudujana Peramuna candidate Lakshman Vasantha Pereira. The president was warmly welcomed upon arrival and he engaged in a friendly discussion with the area residents. Meanwhile, the president joined in a number of rallies organized yesterday in support of the election campaigns of candidates contesting under the Sri Lanka Pudujana Peramuna from the Colombo district. A rally in support of the campaign of Sri Lanka Pudujana Peramuna candidate Ajit Subasinghe was held near the IDH hospital last evening. At this rally, a little girl suffering from cancer requested for a photograph with the president. The president obliged and wished the girl a speedy recovery. Thereafter, the president participated in a rally organized in the premises of the Vietnamese to support the campaign of Sri Lanka Pudujana Peramuna candidate Uday Gambanpilla. The president engaged in a friendly discussion with the participants and focused on the difficulties put forward by them. The president then attended a rally organized in the Kadwell area to support the election campaign of Sri Lanka Pudujana Peramuna candidate Vimal Veeravansa. The president was warmly welcomed at the rally, at which he engaged in a friendly discussion with the people and looked into the shortcomings in the area.
Leader of the Sri Lanka Pudujana Peramuna, Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa states that steps will be taken to eradicate the underworld and the narcotics crisis that has spread like an epidemic during the previous regime. He made this comment joining in a series of rallies organized in the Kalutara district today. One such rally was held in the Horan town today.
මිහාර
Addressing the rally, Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa said that underworld activities and drug smuggling have become an epidemic, and ultimately drug racketeers were found in the institution that raised drug rackets. He said that due to this narcotics issue, a large number of young lives are lost. He said that they have a responsibility to protect the children from narcotics. Therefore, they will take all steps to eradicate narcotics. The Premier stated that certain crimes are operated from within prisons, and in the recent past, the background to plan out crimes from within the prisons was created. He said that steps will be taken to reveal further facts and penalize those responsible. The Premier stated that in this way, the President has decided on creating a new country.
මේ විදියට නැවත අලුත් රටක් ඇති කරන්න මේ රටේ ජනාධිපතිවරයා තීන්දුව කරලා තියෙනවා. ඒ ජනාධිපතිවරයාගේ වැඩපිළිවෙල යටතේ යහපත් රාජ්‍යයක් බිහි කිරීම සඳහා තමුන්නාන්සේලා තුමා නියෝජනය කරන දේශපාලන පක්ෂයට බලය තියෙනවා.
Another rally headed by the Prime Minister was held in the Agalavatta area today.
සංචාරක ව්‍යාපාරය
Addressing the rally, Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa said that when the COVID-19 epidemic is eradicated globally, Sri Lanka should be promoted as the best country to visit. He added that his government is prepared to launch a new program in the tourism sector for this purpose. The Premier stated that the country needs to be delivered from the COVID-19 epidemic and that lies in the hands of the people. Therefore, the Premier advised the people to understand the gravity of the epidemic and to properly adhere to the health and safety guidelines.
ගෝඨාභය රාජපක්ෂ මැතිතුමා පොලිසියත් හමුදාවත් සම්බන්ධ කරගත්ත හින්දා අපිට පාලනය කරන්න මේක පුළුවන් වුණා. දැන් මේ ක්‍රමවේදය අනිත් රටවල් අනුගමනය කරමින් තියෙන විදිහ අපිට පේනවා. මේ වසංගතේ කොහොම හරි වැඩි කරන්න ඕනේ කියන හිතාගෙන ඉන්න අයත් ඉන්නවා බලාගෙන. මේ ඡන්දේ හින්දා. ඉතින් එහෙම කුහක මිනිස්සුත් අපේ අතර ඉන්නවයි කියන එක මතක් කරන්න ඕනේ. ඒක නිසා සහෝදරෝනි තමුන්නාන්සේලා හරි තීන්දුව ගන්න.
A rally was also organized in the Matugama area. Chairman of the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna, Professor G.L. Piris, former State Minister Rohita Begunawardena, and candidates contesting under the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna were present at the rally. Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa, addressing the rally, called to mind that during his government he ended the war and began developing the country. But in 2015 he was defeated. He alleged that the government that assumed power did not implement any work for the country. He also alleged that the economy that they had built collapsed.
දහනමවෙනි වගන්තිය හඳුන්වලා දීලා ඇති කරගත්ත විකෘති භාවය නැති කරන්න ඕනේ. ඒක නිසා මේවා විනාශ කරන්න තමුන්නාන්සේලාගේ සහාය අපිට අවශ්‍යයි.
A rally was also organized in the Bulat Singhal area and was attended by Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa. Addressing the rally, Prime Minister Rajapaksa stated that the people have given the President power and the President has a plan. Therefore, to proceed with the President's target, a parliament that works with the President is needed. The Premier stated that for this purpose they need a two-thirds majority and a new constitution. He added that they need the people to give them power to change the situation resulting from the 19th Amendment to the Constitution.
And moving on, UNP leader Ranil Wickremesinghe states that it is only the United National Party that has the capacity to build the country with an economic vision. Addressing a rally held at Kirillawala in Mahara, UNP leader Ranil Wickremesinghe stated that the majority and the priority is to lighten the burden of the people. He noted that enterprises develop only if they are in a position to expand and on behalf of their businesses. He noted that although stocks were in storage to be placed on sale during the Sinhala and Tamil New Year, No sales took place and there is no compensation. UNP leader Ranil Wickremesinghe emphasized that it is only the United National Party that can uplift the economy and secure the household economy of every family.
India today said it was holding talks with Sri Lanka over its request for postponement of repayment of debt. Spokesperson in the Indian Ministry of External Affairs, Anurag Srivastava, stated it while responding to a question on the issue at an online media briefing. Indian Foreign Ministry spokesman said that the matter has progressed and technical level discussions are presently underway. Sri Lanka has requested several countries and international donors, including India, to provide debt relief due to the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. According to officials in Delhi and Colombo, the two sides have been discussing holding the loan prepayment on the total of $960 million that Sri Lanka owes India, as well as two separate Sri Lankan requests for a currency swap facility. Ministry of External Affairs officials say they have now proposed a virtual meeting between Delhi and Colombo on the issue to take talks further. Sri Lanka's economic was battered as a result of last year's Easter Sunday terror attacks and further affected due to the coronavirus pandemic, as its main earners exports tea and garments, labor remittances and tourism sectors are all badly hit.
The Attorney General has filed two indictments with the Colombo High Court against former Minister Patili Champika Ranawaka and two others over the motor accident in Rajagiri in 2016. Well, the AG's coordinating secretary, Senior State Counsel Nishara Jayaratna, stated that the former minister has been charged with causing grievous injuries to a person by a rash and negligent act, among other charges. Meanwhile, the other indictments has been filed against the former OIC of the Valikata police station and present ASP Sudat Asmalila, who is charged with fabricating false evidence, and Dilam Tustakumara, who is a former minister's driver. The second indictment consists of 16 charges, including fabricating false evidence, tampering with evidence, and presenting inaccurate reports to the magistrate court in order to protect the suspect. This is with regard to the alleged hit-and-run incident which took place on February 28, 2016, where a vehicle in which the former Megapolis and Western Province Development Minister was travelling collided against a motorcycle in Rajagiri, causing life-threatening injuries to its rider.
The World Health Organization on Thursday released new guidelines on the transmission of the novel coronavirus that acknowledge some reports of airborne transmission of the virus that causes COVID-19, but stopped short of confirming that the virus spreads through the air.
The World Health Organization released new guidelines on the transmission of the coronavirus on Thursday that acknowledge some reports of airborne transmissions of the virus that causes COVID-19, but stopped short of confirming that the virus spreads through the air. In its latest guidance, the WHO acknowledged that some outbreak reports related to indoor crowded spaces have suggested the possibility of aerosol transmission, such as during choir practice, in restaurants or in fitness classes. But the WHO said more research is urgently needed. The report follows an open letter from scientists urging the body to update its guidance on how the disease spreads to include aerosol transmission. Based on its review of this evidence, the WHO said the coronavirus that causes COVID-19 spreads through contact with contaminated surfaces or close contact with infected people who spread the virus through saliva, respiratory secretions, or droplets released when an infected person coughs, sneezes, speaks, or sings. New guidelines do, however, suggest people should avoid crowds and ensure good ventilation in buildings, in addition to social distancing, and encourage masks when physical distancing isn't possible.
And down under in Australia, they will have number of citizens halved, allowed to return home from overseas each week, Prime Minister Scott Morrison said today, as authorities struggle to contain the COVID-19 outbreak in the country's second most populous city.
Australia will halve the number of citizens allowed to return home from overseas each week, starting from Monday. The country is struggling to contain a coronavirus outbreak in Victoria, its second most populous state. Leader Scott Morrison announced on Friday that the number will be capped at 4,000 people each week.
We also agreed today a reduction in the number of inbound arrivals into Australia across those ports that are able to accept.
Since March, only Australian citizens and permanent residents have been allowed into the country. Up until now, returnees would enter a mandatory 14-day quarantine in hotels paid by state governments. But that will change next week. Returning citizens will be expected to pay the cost themselves, and no flights are permitted to go into Victoria as its capital, Melbourne, went into lockdown this week. Its border with New South Wales, where Sydney is located, was also closed. Victoria's Premier Daniel Andrews warned that it may get worse before it gets better.
No one should underestimate how significant, how big a challenge that we all face. It is very significant, and that's why each of us have to play our part.
Melbourne's lockdown for 6 weeks is linked to staff members at hotels, housing returned travellers for which quarantine protocols were not strictly followed. Victorian state authorities have announced an investigation into the matter last week. Despite surging numbers of cases in Victoria, Australia has done relatively well in controlling the novel coronavirus so far, with around 9,000 cases and 106 deaths.
And moving on to other stories, Sri Lanka has elucidated to the United Nations Security Council that the country has taken measures to ensure that Sri Lankan peacekeepers are well trained and equipped to maintain peace in conflict situations whilst upholding UN rights. Delivering a written statement at the UN Security Council high-level open debate on peace operations and human rights, Sri Lanka stated that it remains fully committed to the peacekeeping endeavor of the United Nations and the upholding of human rights. In this context, it was pointed out that a number of measures have been taken to ensure that all Sri Lankan peacekeepers are suitably trained and fully equipped with theoretical knowledge and practical application of all necessary functions of peacekeeping, including promotion and the protection of human rights. The statement added that human rights has been included as part of the training provided to the police and security forces in Sri Lanka. The statement pointed out that the Kotalavala Defence University, which is the premier degree awarding tertiary institution established for military personnel where military cadets pursue degree programs, human rights is taught as an important component of the academic curriculum. The statement also brings an observation over the significant impact on human rights caused by the COVID-19 pandemic, as travel-related restrictions and limitations enforced on human interactions have generated negative effects across the spectrum, ranging from difficulties in delivering humanitarian assistance to difficulties in the provision of protection for vulnerable communities. The statement further observes that diverting resources to pandemic mitigation efforts from UN field missions for humanitarian assistance would weaken the capacities of peacekeeping missions in protecting civilians. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, addressing the India Global Week 2020 forum this week, stated that there are expectations that attempts for global revival will have India playing a leading role. The Indian Premier noted that his country is a powerful house or a powerhouse of talent that is eager to contribute and is ever ready to learn with the ability to reform and rejuvenate. Well, noting that India is fighting a strong battle against the global pandemic, Indian Premier Modi stated that his country is equally focused on the health of the economy. He pointed out that over the past 6 years, India made great gains in areas such as total financial inclusion, housing and infrastructure construction, ease of doing business, bold tax reforms, and the implementation of the world's largest healthcare initiative under the theme Atmanirbhar Bharat, or Self-Reliant India.
India remains one of the most open economies in the world. We are laying a red carpet for all global companies to come and establish their presence in India. Very few countries will offer the kind of opportunities that India does today. When India talks of revival, it is revival with care, revival with compassion, revival which is sustainable both for the environment and the economy.
The Sri Lanka Navy, marking another first step in the naval history of Sri Lanka, launched the Maritime Doctrine of Sri Lanka at the Navy headquarters under the auspices of Navy Commander Vice Admiral P.L. De Silva yesterday. The Sri Lankan Navy has compiled this publication as a guide to understand the unique nature of the Navy's maritime power and the manner in which it is applicable in pursuit of national interests. At the launch of the first ever Maritime Doctrine of Sri Lanka, the Navy commander highlighted how it would shape the broad aspects of the employment of maritime power and how the Navy nurtures a stable environment at sea.
Happy moment for me as we launch the first ever doctrine of Sri Lanka Navy, which is not only the first doctrine of Navy but also the very first doctrine among other services. This would be recognized by the defense community of Sri Lanka as well as the international community. The present context of maritime domain is changing rapidly, mainly due to high demand of energy, technological advancement, demographic shift, globalization and interest of the geopolitics. I especially expect all naval personnel to have a clear understanding of the doctrine. I humbly request all PSOs to encourage your subordinates to be conversant with the doctrine and refine their respective actions to achieve excellent objectives and to shape the future needs. I wish the Maritime Doctrine of Sri Lanka will serve its purpose and the nation.
The Educational Cooperative Society has issued over 3,000 million rupees in loans to its members within the first quarter of this year. Speaking at a media briefing held in Colombo today, Chairman Lalit Samantha Vijayasinghe stated that this is a step taken for the development of the country. Meanwhile, Sri Lanka Savings Bank commenced issuing loan facilities to preschool teachers today. This relief is being granted for preschool teachers who have been unable to continue with their profession due to COVID-19 pandemic. Thereby, 30,000 rupees each was granted for 50 preschool teachers of the Mathala and Galle districts under concessionary interest rates today. Sri Lanka Savings Bank has granted these loans in response to a request put forward by the trade unions of Early Childhood Development Centre owners. The event was also attended by Chairman of the National Savings Bank, Keshala Javardhana.
An investigation carried out by the CID has revealed that part of the revenue earned by the copper factory had been provided to the individual by the name of Zaran, who planned the Easter Sunday attacks. Speaking at a media briefing held at the police headquarters today, police media spokesperson SSP Charlie Sinaratna stated that in the investigations carried out into the mode of earning the monies, it has been revealed that a high volume of copper has been issued to this factory, beyond the prevailing quantity, which is a mild freeze. He further stated that the CID is conducting further investigations into the findings. Over 600 kilos of heroin stored at the court item storage at the Police Narcotics Bureau were transferred to the Government Analysts Department today. This stock of heroin is suspected to have not been produced in court so far. Upon a special order issued by Colombo Chief Magistrate Lanka Jayaratne on the 8th of this month, the controversial court item storage of the Police Narcotics Bureau was inspected. The Trump administration to finalize the regulations this week, and we are going to bring you the foreign news right after this break. Stay tuned in.
Welcome back, and we are now moving on to international stories. Well, the Trump administration plans to finalize regulations this week that will bar the U.S. government from buying goods and services from any company that uses products of 5 Chinese companies, including Huawei, Hikvision, and Dahua.
The White House is set to finalize plans this week that will bar any part of the U.S. government from buying high-tech goods or services from 5 Chinese companies, including Huawei. A U.S. government official tells Reuters exclusively that as part of the plan, any company looking for a go-around would have to request a waiver as the Trump administration throws down an ultimatum. Do business with the U.S. government or do business with the Chinese, but you can't do both. This is likely to have sweeping effects since any U.S. company that wants to sell high-tech devices to the U.S. government must certify that none of the components come from Huawei, Hikvision, Dahua, Hytera, and ZTE. That could impact the sale of surveillance equipment, cameras, two-way radios, and various mobile devices, including smartphones. This is just the latest step in rising tensions between the world's 2 biggest economies over geopolitical and trade issues. Many of these Chinese tech firms were already on a blacklist, barring them from buying any components from U.S. companies without White House permission. Huawei did not respond to a request for comment. None of the other Chinese companies targeted could be reached. The ban is set to go into effect on August 13th.
And from South Korea, one of South Korea's most prominent elected officials, Park Won-soon, the longtime mayor of its capital, was found dead, police said, and after he was reported missing by his daughter amid a criminal probe of an alleged impropriety.
Longtime Seoul City Mayor Park Won-soon was found dead, according to police on Friday. This comes after his daughter reported him missing at 5:17 p.m. local time, saying his phone was off and that he had left a message, quote, like a will. Hundreds of police took part in the hours-long search, utilizing both drones and dogs. The Seoul Metropolitan Police Agency said the mayor's body was found at Mount Bugak in northern Seoul around midnight, near where his phone signal had last been detected. The agency did not give a cause of death. A police official told reporters at a television briefing at the scene there was no sign of foul play, although a detailed investigation would be needed. As mayor of the city of nearly 10 million people, Park was one of South Korea's most influential politicians and played a high-profile role in its response to the coronavirus pandemic. He was seen as a potential presidential hopeful for the Liberals in the 2022 presidential elections. The Yonhap news agency said a former secretary of Park had filed a complaint on Wednesday over alleged incidents of sexual harassment. Police said an investigation was underway after a criminal complaint had been lodged against Park, without elaborating. Formerly a prominent human rights activist and lawyer, Park had been the mayor of Seoul since 2011, pursuing a slew of policies promoting gender equality.
Welcome back, and we now head into the sports news. The Interclub First Cricket Tournament organized by Sri Lanka Cricket has been postponed. The tournament was due to commence on the 14th of this month with the intention of recommencing local cricket matches that was stalled due to the spread of the COVID-19 pandemic. Sri Lanka Cricket had focused on obtaining the approval of club members to include pertaining amendments to the structure of the tournament. The decision on the postponement was taken at a special general meeting of Sri Lanka Cricket.
And more on sports. With just over a year to go until the rescheduled Tokyo Olympics, medical experts say the event could pose a grave health risk to the Japanese public and that there was a high chance of a disease outbreak.
The rescheduled Olympic Games may still be just over a year away, but medical experts warned on Friday about a grave risk to the Japanese public. The Tokyo Games have already been pushed back to 2021 because of global health concerns, but now Olympic organisers and local authorities are scrambling to prevent anything further from derailing the event. In interviews with a dozen infectious disease experts, a common theme emerged. The Olympics would increase the risk of a disease outbreak. One doctor from Osaka University Hospital's infection control team said, quote, "Infection will flare up if we push ahead with the Olympics and hold them. There's no doubt about it." The Olympics brings together competitors and spectators from over 200 countries, and concern remains over a possible public health crisis. There are more than 100 potential vaccines in development, but experts say none will likely be available in enough quantity in time for the Olympics. Public opinion remains split as well, with a poll carried out by one Japanese newspaper last month showing that 59% of people feel the Olympics should be cancelled completely or at least postponed again. Local media in Tokyo, citing unnamed sources, also reported Thursday that all venues for the Olympics have been secured for 2021, although a Tokyo 2020 official said that was, quote, optimistic and that nothing had been announced.
And that's where we end tonight's news. Do enjoy the rest of the programs. Take care and good night.
Good night.